The chat is open. So if you do have questions, we will have a designated Q&A at the end. I'm sure Nat will engage you throughout the presentation, but I would say hold off on questions until the end unless she's asking you something specific. But we'll hold off on those, and you can post those into the chat. If you want to raise your hand and come off mute, you can certainly do that. But if you just want to post them into the chat, I'll be happy to read those off and hopefully get those answered. So what I will do from here, and remind, session is going to be recorded. That will be sent out probably later on today. Attached to that recording is going to be a questionnaire. So we certainly value your opinion on the different presentations and workshops that we're putting on. So we just ask that you do take the time, fill that out. It should take you no more than 2 minutes, but that will be attached to the recording. So if you want to go back and reference anything that's talked about during the session, certainly feel free to do so. Also, keep an eye out for those other sessions for Career Quest. So what I will do from here, it is my pleasure to have an alumni come in and speak with you all today. Nat, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Hi, everybody. I am very excited to be part of the Career Quest series. Very exciting opportunities for sure. So a little bit about myself. My name's Nat. I'm from Puerto Rico. I've been with the firm for about 2 years now. I started off in the global banking markets division as an operations analyst, and about 6 months ago made my way to the human capital division as a diversity campus recruiter. And as RJ well said, I am an alumni, so I bet that all of you can understand that WGU is a different approach. It's very like self-paced, and I loved my experience, and I hope that all of you are enjoying yours. So without further ado, I am going to go through a deck. I'm not going to be able to show it because tech issues with my system, but I'll try to keep it as engaging as possible. So a little bit of Goldman Sachs. We are a banking, securities, and investment management firm. So that means that we provide a range of financial services for clients, whether it's corporations, financial institutions, governments, or individuals. So we really do cover a lot of bases. And having said that, that's why we have around 19 divisions. I bet here Goldman Sachs, you think investment banking, and that's the end of it. But we have all sorts of divisions from asset management, controllers, executive office, legal, tax, risk. There's so many teams that we have. So when we say there's an opportunity for everybody, we really mean it, and we're mostly open to all majors. So that even here, if you think, oh, I'm studying maybe human resources management, I won't be able to have a shot at corporate treasury or at operations. Like, I was a human resources management degree, and I went into operations in the global banking markets division. So really the opportunities are kind of endless here. We look for all sorts of people. We are invested in our personnel. I think if you ask any Goldman Sachs employee, they'll tell you, sorry about that, they'll tell you that our best asset is our people. And we really mean it. Like, you work with such brilliant folks, and everybody's so willing and eager to help you out. And whilst, investment banking or banking in general tends to be a slightly competitive industry, it's amazing to see how invested your managers and your colleagues are in your growth. So, we do focus a lot on people who have good communication skills, that you're motivated, that you have a good work ethic, that you foster that sense of like teamwork and collaboration, because we do have a consensus-driven culture, meaning everything that we do, whilst you work independently on it, we kind of run it by each other. We pride ourselves in excellence, and that's part of it, because at the end of the day, diversity of people brings diversity of thought, and that's what leads to progress. So that's just a little bit. I know WGU works a little differently, but we do have, like, if we're going to put it in a range, very general. So for freshmen, we have an opportunity that's called the Possibility Summit. And let's think of it like a very high level view of Goldman Sachs. It gives you like more insight as to our divisions and everything that we do. And then it kind of helps you set up your resume and just interview skills and networking skills, which will then feed into an opportunity for sophomores, which is the Emerging Leader Series. Now, this program goes more in depth with the division of your interest. So basically, you can say, hey, I'm interested in operations. So if you get chosen for this program, you'll be assigned to different mentors within operations that will help you throughout the application process and will deepen your understanding of what we do on a daily basis. And building off of that, we have the summer analyst program, which is the internship, and that is available for juniors mostly. It's an 8 to 9 week summer internship. Very, very rewarding, very exciting. It's always a good change of energy when the interns are here. But it's kind of project based, but you also have the day to day of what your role would be. So you have about 1 to 3 projects assigned to you, and you have until the end of your internship to present it to your managers. And ultimately, for seniors, um, we have the new analyst program, which would be a full time role. So for those of you who are, graduating next year, this would be what you would look into. Okay, and if you graduate this year, again, because I know WGU, it's a little different. If you graduate this year, you can look up our skill set recruiting, and that one is a really cool thing because you basically apply to a certain skill set. So hey, like I really love like data analysis, process improvement, restructuring. That'll give you different divisions that require those skill sets, and the application goes to all those. So really cool concept. Definitely check it out. So our recruiting process. There are 3 main components to it. When you apply, then you get selected into a hire view. In the chat, who knows what like? Do you know what a hire view is? Have you gone through a hire view? Put it in the chat. Yes, no, maybe. No, see some yeses, see some no's. For those of you who said yes, it's a nerve-wracking experience. And for those of you who said no, basically it's a pre-recorded interview. So instead of having like a one-to-one, you'll basically have a 30-minute video interview with a series of competency-based questions. They'll give you 30 seconds to prepare for an answer after receiving that prompt, and then you'll have 2 minutes to respond to each question. I saw, never mind, I've done that. So yeah, it's a little bit nerve wracking. You're kind of put on the spot. The questions go back to back. It doesn't really stop. But what I always suggest to people is just be prepared, and I'll touch more in depth with those tips in a second. And then ultimately, if you go from the higher view stage forward, you go to the super day. These are 2 to 3 45-minute in-person interviews or virtual interviews. You'll basically meet with the businesses that are interested in adding you to their teams or respective teams within that division. And for those interviews, it's good to be prepared with the responses for both technical and competency-based questions. For recruiting, there's just an additional step, which is called the hacker rank. And that's an assessment to see how you're where you land at with programming, and then combine programming with math. So it's just an additional step right after you apply. So how to stand out? Goldman Sachs, super competitive. I know. So there's a few things to keep in mind just to kind of how to do that extra step. So your resume is extremely important, right? It's a snapshot of your experience to date, and it tells us a story about why you're a fit for a company. And it's the first and sometimes the only impression that you make. So a few best practices to keep in mind, it's that it needs to be no more than 1 page. I know we get excited, we want to put every single thing we've done, but it doesn't need to fit into 2 pages. I think when we're trying to see, okay, well, how can I fit it on 1 page? I always try to say, be intentional about what you're doing. If you know the role that you want to apply to, look it up on the careers website. What skill sets do they require? What are the responsibilities? And I take a step back and I'm, okay, in my experiences, what tasks or what skill sets did I learn or improve on, and how can I portray that in my resume? Right? I was a 4th grade teacher before Goldman Sachs, night and day. So before that, what I did was, okay, what did I learn as a teacher that is transferable to a role in operations and global banking markets? And the big one was communication skills, adaptability, working in a fast-paced environment, and being able to connect with different teams in a way where it's like the parents, the teachers, stakeholders, students, and then in my case here, it was like teams from London, Warsaw, Singapore, New York, working with traders, working with engineering. So it kind of translated into that. So that's what I mean by being intentional. Formatting, also really key. It needs to be clear, easy to read. It should be like a story almost. Your career center usually has a great place to search for templates, and I know WDU has those resources as well. So leverage them. They're there to help you, and they will help you. And then use those power verbs. Okay, like look what in my case, what I tell some people: if you're looking for a counseling role and you had experiences advising, counseling, just kind of working in that sort of role, make sure you include those verbs that'll stand out. And then one more thing that I personally like as a recruiter is being able to quantify your results. We're a banking firm at the end of the day. We do like seeing numbers. So if you're able to quantify your results, that's great. Because I can easily say, hey, I worked with students on creating individualized plans for XY amount of time. Or I can say, I worked with 150 plus students to create individualized plans during a period of 1 month and achieving a 90% increase in their rating skills. Like that, I hope that you can see that difference. It does stand out. Um, and then in the chat, briefly, what is the best resume tip you've ever received? Let's see if you have it off the top of your head. What's the best resume tip you've ever received? Use resume IO. That's a good one. That's a good one. Spell check. Yep. Quantify results. Yep. ATS. Yep. Tell a story. Love it. These are all great answers, and these will all definitely help you get your resume to the right place. All right. Well, with what experiences you should feature in your resume, you can. I know people get like stressed. Oh my gosh, I haven't done an internship yet. Don't worry about it. If you have other professional work experiences, that's great. If you have academic coursework and project work that relates to it, that's great too. Extracurriculars, awesome. Personal projects help too, and then technical certifications. We look at the resumes as a whole. So really, I know if you get nervous, oh, I haven't had a lot of experience, there's probably more that you're doing that you don't realize will translate to success in the role that you want. So keep that in mind. And then I always suggest have someone review your resume before you submit it. You know, career centers, peers, professors, mentors, they're great resources. At the end of this session, like I'll share my LinkedIn, and I tend to be very responsive, whether it's through email and LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to give a second eye to your resumes. Now, let's say you crushed it, you nailed it, you're moving on to the interviews. Let's talk about some best practices. So before you start, the hire view, they'll give you 4 days to complete the assessments, and they'll tell you that same period within the email. You're probably going to answer about 5 to 7 questions, and each question will cover a specific competency. Now, when it comes to answering these questions, I know you have 2 minutes, and it seems like just such a short amount of time, but just make sure that you're being thoughtful and thorough with your responses that address all the parts of the questions. You know, like I said, always keeping in mind that you want to be intentional and you want to be clear, right? So a strong example will showcase the skill set, the aptitude, and your thought process. And then just kind of talk about what you learned from said experience or situation. I know some recruiters recommend to use the STAR method to structure your answers. So basically, name the situation, what was the task, what action did you take, and what was the result of that action. STAR. So keep that in mind. Okay. And now I know there's always one question. I I always get so nervous with this question, which is tell me a little bit about yourself. And that is where your elevator pitch comes in. Have any of you done an elevator pitch? Put it in the chat. Yes, no, working towards it. Yes. Okay, so I saw a yes lol. So you know the elevator pitches are, you have to be compelling. You have to be precise and you have to be short. If your elevator pitch is more than 50 seconds, you might lose the recruiters or the interviewers' attention. And that's just a rule of thumb. Keep it short. All you have to do is mention, this is who I am, this is what I study, this is the role that I want, and this is why I think I'm the best candidate. Like, keep it like a TikTok reel. Kinda, yeah, think about it that way. Yeah, just keep it short and compelling. Now, when it comes to like you pass the higher view and you go to the super days stage, you're going to be asked to select your preferred location and profile before your super day is scheduled. Like I said, when you go into that, it's going to be the businesses that you are being considered for. And ideally, you must know your whys. Why Goldman Sachs? Why that office location? Why that division? And just like why that specific role, what appeals to you. It's important to know your whys. And another tip for me within the super days, yes, it's important to have good answers to the questions that they ask you, but I think it says a lot of questions for the ones that are interviewing you. That says a lot about you. It can show how genuinely interested you are. It can show the amount of research that you've done. And you don't want to be just another like general question. Like, really be mindful and thoughtful of that. So all interviews for super days are about an hour and a half in total, just because there are multiple. And then the questions, like I said, are a combination of technical and behavioral prompts. And then at the end, they'll always do the Q&A, which is why I'm saying, like, be prepared, have some questions in hand. Now, some of the best practices, I know we've been talking a lot about all these things, and I'll try to keep it a little shorter so I can open it up for Q&A. But we do prohibit the use of external resources, including ChatGPT or Google search engine during the interview process. We will know. We will know. Know your resume front to back. So you can pull specific examples for each question. Anything that you put on your resume, you should be able to speak to. So really know what you're putting in there, and like I said, just be conscious of what you're putting in there that can lead to success in your role. I can't stress that enough. It's so important to be that intentional. Also, do thorough research on the division and the role that you're applying for. It's not the best look when you go into the interview and they're like, okay, so what do you know about our division? And you're like, I don't know. I just applied to that role. You know, like, it's not the best view. So know your stuff, be prepared. I know it's nerve wracking, but speak slowly, enthusiastically, concisely, and clearly. At the end of the day, like, you want to get your message across, but you have a short amount of time with these people. You want to grab their attention. And like I said, we do look for good communication skills. So that's one way that they come across. Be mindful of your body language, your posture, and focus on eye contact as much as you can. And somebody just put it in the chat, make sure you have confidence. Absolutely. And I think adding to that, I always suggest, like, when I say be prepared, I research questions that most recruiters ask and recruiters within that division ask. Why? I wanted to be best prepared to answer those because I know that I'm a person that will get nervous when I'm on the spot. So it's not to sound memorized, but it's to sound prepared. That way, when they ask me the question, I know I have this idea of how I want to approach it, and I'll have more confidence when responding it. And also, sorry, make sure to test your technology. I know, like, I met with RJ, we had to test it out. Didn't function in my computer at work, so this is why we do these things. You gotta test it in advance. And be yourself. At the end of the day, we do value our people, and like I said, diversity of thoughts. It's what brings growth to the firm. So be yourself. We really do value that authenticity. And then this is just my tip. Uh, dress for the role that you want, not the role that you have. Meaning, dress for success. At least, like, have a little nice fit. Strut it, crush it. And that's my few, like, best practices for the super day, or just like interviews. Going through it, making sure Like I said, just do your research, craft stories rather than scripts, practice recording yourself and watching back. That also helps. And then I'll open it up for Q&A, RJ, if that's okay. I just want to make sure that I address any questions that you might have.
Absolutely. So before we do open it up, um, you'll have the opportunity to come off mute and ask your question, or if you want to post those in the chat. I did just want to make clear before we started asking that questions, one thing, we're going to post in here a link, and I'll send that out in the follow-up email where you can go and look and see what open opportunities the firm has. So one thing I hear from some people when they're asking questions is, hey, here's my story. Do you have this open position? So let's try to avoid those types of questions. Also recognize there are a lot of others in the session. So we certainly want to have you ask questions, but try to avoid sharing too much information as far as your backstory, and to try to make it more of a one-on-one conversation. I would say, hey, connect with Nat, after the fact if you want to ask her any specific questions like that. Feel free to do so, but we will open it up for questions. So if people do have questions, like I said, you can post those in the chat, or if you want to raise your hands, you can certainly do that. Sean, I see your hand is raised. If you wanted to come off mute and ask your question, feel free to do so.
Hey, Nat, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Two questions for you. First, you had some recommendations regarding your resume. I wanted to hear your thoughts on cover letters and what should be in them.
Right. So with cover letters, they're not, and I say this with the most candid way that I can. Um, because of the volume that we receive applications for, I'd say they're not necessarily needed. So if you're like stressing that I need to submit a cover letter, like I wouldn't. I think if you are able to portray your story through your resume, that goes a long way. However, if you do want to submit a cover letter, we will read it. I just encourage you to be concise, try to keep it within the one page as well, but just be very specific about what you want and how you know you'll be an asset to the firm.
Okay,
So if you're able to like just, hey, I have this skill set and this skill set, I learned it this way, and that's why I think I'll be an asset to the firm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I had a second question for you. My understanding is Goldman Sachs is based in Manhattan, correct?
We have offices all over the globe, actually. We have our three main big offices tend to be in New York, then Salt Lake City, which is where I'm based. I probably should have said that. And then Dallas. Those are like our big offices. But we have offices in Chicago, in Atlanta, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco. I think even in Philadelphia, we have, like I said, offices globally. So London, Warsaw, Japan, Singapore. So we have offices all over, and you can see that in our website. We have an office in Colorado, which is beautiful.
Okay.
So yeah.
So this tied into, I guess, where I wanted to sort of nudge this, which was, I apologize if this question is too specific, but I was curious if you guys had any in-person recruiting events at, in Manhattan, the tri-state area, coming up.
Yeah, so for any events that we might host, whether it's virtual or in person, our careers webpage will post those. So I would just eye on that because they will market those opportunities. And then another cool thing, Handshake. Leverage that a lot. We post all of our recruiting events, networking opportunities on Handshake. So just be mindful of that and also keep an eye out on the page.
All right, thank you for that, Natalie.
Yeah, of course.
One question that came in the chat, Nat, is how long is the process from application to offer?
So that will definitely vary. usually for full-time roles, let's say skill set recruiting for full-time roles, we tend to be looking for someone now, meaning that the pace of that application process might be a little quicker. Always keep in mind that background check can take a while. Like it can be super quick in like a month, but it can also take 2 months, 3 months. I know mine took a hot minute. So it will vary. And then when it comes to like internships, they are reviewed on a rolling basis. So I wouldn't be able to give you a specific time frame. It's just as soon as applications open, we'll start reviewing it ourselves because it's recruiters. It's not necessarily a system that goes through it. So we'll start reviewing them and we'll start getting responses out after, our businesses um, get back to us on who they want to invite to Super Days and stuff like that. Sorry that I couldn't answer that super specifically. It's just we always recruit like a year in advance. So right now, applications open on August 15th for summer internships 2025. So yeah.
And then, James, I see your hand raised. I just want to ask one quick one before I pass it over to you. Question that came in: what is your favorite or most impactful question to ask interviewers during the interview process?
My favorite question, I think someone did this to me once and I was flabbergasted. um, they did a lot of research on me and they really knew like everywhere that I've worked in. And they used that to phrase the question basically, essentially, to say, hey, given the variety of like career experiences that you had, what prompted you to apply to Goldman Sachs and what are some reasons that keep you at the firm? So it wasn't just like, why are you at Goldman Sachs? It was the fact that they tied it to who I am and who I've been. That to me was very impressive.
Awesome. Uh, James, you had your hand raised. Did you want to come off mute and ask Nat a question?
Yes, please. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Nat.
Hi.
So I'm in the middle of a computer science program right now, and I'm hoping to pursue my MBA. What kind of positions, if you had to place me, would be good for Goldman Sachs? Does that seem like it would align well, or would it seem too unfocused? Well, with computer science and an MBA,
What is your MBA in?
just a standard MBA, WGU MBA program.
Okay. Um, I mean, like I said, the opportunities are really like open to a lot of divisions. What I do tend to see with bachelors in computer science and then MBAs that are like per usual, they tend to go into operations. They tend to go into operations, given or engineering. Keep it in mind that engineering is not all programming. There are options that don't involve or don't consist of like coding or anything like that. But I think a cool thing also is operations and engineering is embedded in every single one of our divisions. So I think that's why you can leverage it. Like, hey, you can be in operations, but you want to be more on the financial side. Like, okay, I want to be in operations in private wealth management or financial wellness. Not for you. Like, okay, well, I want to be in maybe in operations in human capital management or you get what I'm saying?
Do
Like, it's
do you
more
do you see more
it's
success with one area than other for those types of applicants, or?
um not not really. I think success isn't defined more on what you studied, it's on how you perform here.
Got it. Okay. All righty. Well, thank you for your time.
Also willing to like teach you if you have like that drive that we're looking for, that tenacity, and those good like communication skills and all that. We can teach you the material. Like I said, I used to be a teacher. I had no idea,
Got it. Okay.
but we're willing to teach you if you see you as the right candidate.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. A bunch of questions came through the chat, so we'll try to get to as many as we can. Just a reminder, let's keep these more general type questions, not so much focused on, hey, do you have X opportunity in this specific geographic location? We'll send out those links as far as where you can search for those opportunities and take a look. But one thing that came in terms of state licenses, do certain departments or any type of are there certain types of clearances with like cybersecurity that people have to get? Anything specific along those lines?
If there are any level of clearances, we'll work with you to get those. And then when it comes to like licenses, most of our divisions don't really require that unless you're like an
Okay,
CPA and stuff like
awesome.
that.
Another one in which I should have known that this one was going to come in, being everybody attending WGU. Do you all offer remote positions?
So in office business, so we do require you to be in office. Having said that, take it. I want you to take it with a grain of salt. Having said that, we're not we're not unreasonable. Like if something were to come up, okay, and you need to like, we're like, hey, my flight got stuck in Dallas. I have my computer. I cannot get to the office. Like, okay, you can work from home. Or even like in my case, again, it depends on the team that you're at. It depends on the division that you're in. In my case, because I'm in the human capital management division, there's a little more, um, I guess, space or time. It's not like IB where you all know, but in my case, like if I had a medical emergency or I have an appointment, I work with my manager so I can from that day, so I can get off the desk and go back home. So yes, we are an in-office business. I hope that answered your question. I'm sorry if it did not.
Another question that came in. So Goldman Sachs has a reputation that the firm gravitates towards target schools, or at least have a preference for big name schools. Is there some truth to this, and how can a degree from WGU be weighted against other applications from those more traditional schools that larger firms might target when recruiting for open roles?
Look at me. I'm a WGU alumni. No, I've heard that and I know about that. So there are certain schools that we more at just because there's a relationship built with those schools. However, and this is why we're here today, it doesn't mean that we're not one open to building relationships with other schools or two open to people from different universities. Like let's say, and this is just a sheer example, like let's say Harvard was a target school. It doesn't mean that we're exclusively hiring from Harvard. If you're a good candidate, regardless of where you went to school, we're gonna want you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Another one, what are some common traits that you see in individuals who do well at Goldman Sachs?
That's a good question. Um, I'd say for one is people who are eager to learn and that you're adaptable. We work in a very volatile market and things do change. Practices sometimes need to like change times. So I've seen a lot of people who are um, wanting to be part of that change tend to have more success or tend to do better. In my case, just out of example, I think in my previous team we had people from all majors all over the world, And one thing that I saw, and we were all great, like I said, people here are great. And something that I saw was collaboration, like being willing and wanting to help each other grow. Yes, at the end of the day, you're kind of competing with each other to get, from analyst to associate and all that, but that shouldn't take away from you wanting to build your team in the most successful way possible. So someone who's eager to learn, and then someone who is definitely a team worker. So I'd say those are two top ones.
Thank you. Um, Another one that came in, or Omega, I do see your hand raised, so I'm going to ask one question first, and then I will pass it over to you. So one that came in, and especially here at WGU, we do have such a large population of military veterans, military spouses. Are there opportunities for transitioning service members, and how would that timeline look?
That's an awesome question because yes, we do have a program that's actually called the Veterans Integration Program. So I would, if I were you, please go on the careers website page and look it up because it offers a lot more information I honestly have in hand right now. But it is a great program that serves that specific purpose. So for all you veterans out here, one, thank you for your service, and two, we definitely have an opportunity for you here.
Awesome. Thank you. Omega, if you wanted to come off mute and ask your question.
Sure, yeah. I actually had a question, like, can you tell me a little bit about the like culture of working there or like your favorite thing about working there? Like finance wasn't really like a field that I'd considered very much, but starting with cybersecurity, they're like, oh yeah, lots of places are hiring for that.
Yeah. Culture wise, so we have this. Um, I wouldn't say benefit. We have these things called affinity networks or inclusion networks, and basically they're set up to foster this sense of belonging and community. So in my case, I'm part of the LGBTQ plus network. I'm part of the Hispanic and Latinx network. I'm part of the disability network. Works regardless if you're an ally, that's awesome. If you're part of it, that's great. And these networks, they just do an amazing job at hosting events and gathering like managing directors and VPs to tell you their story of how them being, in my case, like an LGBTQ plus individual, how they got into a managing director role, and what are some challenges that they kind of advise you on how to navigate. So it's those activities, or even just the barbecue. I know the LGBTQ network for Pride, which is huge in Utah. If you guys didn't know, it's huge. But they worked in collaboration with the Black Network, and we hosted this amazing barbecue and invited everybody to it. And I think that's one of my favorite parts. I think going into Goldman Sachs, I'm not even gonna lie to all of you. Like I was a little bit scared because of how it is in the banking world, but then coming into it and seeing such a commitment to fostering that sense of belonging, community, promoting to be yourself, it was just remarkable.
Awesome. Is there any types of positions that people might be able to apply for that are working towards their degree? They might not necessarily have their degree yet, or they might have relevant work experience, but they're working towards the degree. Are there specific types of positions that might be a good fit for those individuals, or is it pretty strict as far as, hey, like you do need the degree in order to obtain this type of role?
Yeah, well, yes, we do look for a degree when it comes to like these full-time roles, but like there are exploratory programs prior to, and there are the internships where it doesn't require you to already have your degree. You can be working towards your degree and be able to participate in those opportunities.
What is the, and this is just, what is the internship opportunity? What does that application process look like? Is it similar to, applying for an entry level position, or is it a little bit different?
Yeah, it's similar in the steps to take. It is, you apply through the careers webpage, and then if you get selected to move on, you go to the higher view stage, and from there, if you also get selected, then you move into the super day stage, and from there you'll get an offer extended or not. Hopefully you do, but that's kind of how it works. It's pretty structured to be the same no matter what level you're going into.
Awesome. Um, Next question is, aside from health benefits, 401k, what are some perks for working for Goldman Sachs?
We actually had this program called Perks at Work, and they offer a bunch of discounts with a lot of companies, including Apple, Samsung, LG. They offer like employee pricing for flights, hotels, buying a car, getting insurance. Even if it's just like, I don't know if you guys know of Home Chef. I love Home Chef. It's a passion. So they offer Home Chef, or even for BetterHelp, because we do obviously we focus heavily on people's mental health as well. So we do offer like a really big discount for you to register with BetterHelp and stuff like that. So perks at work. Perks at work.
I like it. Tyler, I see your hand raised. I'm going to ask one question first, and then I'll pass it over to you. Um, how does Goldman integrate cybersecurity and information assurance skills into wealth management and private wealth management divisions?
Could you refresh? Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
How do you all integrate cybersecurity or information assurance skills into wealth management and private wealth management divisions? Is there any like crossover there with those types of skill sets into those types of roles?
I'd say I'd say it's always good to know how to market yourself. I'd start off with that. I think it is all about how you market yourself, and if you know what you've learned and the skill sets that you've had for those roles can translate to doing good at this role in asset and wealth management, then yes. But again, it's all about how you market it. Um, like I said, we are very open. I think at the end of the day, a big component of Goldman Sachs is mitigating risk, and that's one way to do it, right? So if you are able to bring those skill sets and that knowledge, um, it does go a long way. But in the meantime, I'd also say wealth management to make sure that that's the line that you want to go into when it's considering cybersecurity.
Awesome. Tyler, if you wanted to come off mute and ask your question.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. First of all, I want to say I hope y'all are doing well. And Nat, I just wanted to ask you, what is an average work day like for you?
Hmm. Um, an average workday life. In my case, again, it varies by division and team. In my case, I get to work at 8:30. I have a lot of meetings. I'm a recruiter, so a lot of what I do is meeting with students, meeting with the businesses to make sure that they're, going through the motions of like, or not through the motion, going through the process of, reviewing resumes, reviewing hire views, reviewing candidates for the super days. So a lot of meetings. And then in my case, I work on the diversity side of things. So I'm a diversity campus recruiter. So I do a lot of program planning. So right now, a lot of my days are just working with the executive office to compile the content for our exploratory programs for next year. That's my day in the role that I'm in now. In my previous role, just to give you all a little more insight as an operations analyst, in my previous role, I used to get in way earlier than that. I used to get in earlier, and my day consisted of Basically working with traders and external clients to exchange collateral and mitigate risk, and reduce exposure for the firm. So we work on the front to back process of trade management. And every day, you're doing something from the moment you sit on your desk all the way to the moment that you leave. But I'd say that one was more consistent in the sense that you had from, let's say, from 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. to do this, and then from 9 a.m. to 12 you have to do this, and from 12 to this time you have to do this. But it never gets, it's not much like it's while it's the same schedule, you're always doing something different, or that's how it felt like.
So it kind of varies from day to day, I reckon.
Yeah, yeah. And then IB, it's just their own world. Investment banking, sorry. They're
Fantastic.
in it. They're in the trench. They're in the good trenches.
Cool. Much obliged.
Yeah.
Kate, I see your hand raised. I'm going to ask one quick one before I pass it over to you. Does Goldman tend to promote from within or hire outside of the organization? Also, how do they develop individuals that are working there? Anything specific as far as like career growth, career upward mobility?
I love that question. Yes. So we really want to grow the talent that we have here. So we focus a lot on promoting internally. Granted, if there's headcount and there's an opportunity for that external candidate that's amazing, like we will bring them onto the team. But we do work a lot on promoting internally. Just to say, like, I've been with the firm for 2 years. I made it from junior analyst to senior analyst within the year, and I'm being considered for associate for the next year. Like, the opportunities are there as long as you're a high performer. Um, and then in opportunities for growth, like, one, I'll touch up on the internal mobility. If you're a great employee, right? But your skill sets are not being maximized in the team that you're in, we want to keep you. So we encourage you to connect with other teams to explore what's out there, and we'll see if we can move you with another team that will best suit your strengths. So we don't want to lose you. If you're great, we don't want to lose you. Well, we want to make sure that you feel that your strengths are being used and your skill sets are being challenged in a good way, because we also don't want you to stay stagnant. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're saying I'm capping on the knowledge that I have, and we don't want that, right? So that's in the internal mobility piece. When it comes to just professional growth, you will be assigned a mentor, and you're encouraged to have a mentor from different areas, whether it's like, hey, I want a mentor from my division, or in my case, like, I have mentors from my division, from divisions aside from mine, and from the networks that I'm in. And all these mentors work to get you to where you want to be. And I think a key part of that is also you get it when you get out what you put into it. So, and it comes to the intentional piece. When I go into these meetings, starting off the year, I am like, hey, I want to make associates. What goals do I need to achieve to make sure I get to be an associate by end of year, or I'm in line to be an associate by end of year? And we set those goals early in the year. And with those mentors, I work throughout the year as checkpoints. Like, hey, how am I doing against this goal? What else should I be doing to meet it? And that way, by the end of the year, it's like you've been set up for success. So your managers are really invested in you. Again, your mentors are really invested in you. I know in my case, the person next to me is the global head of diversity recruiting. And she and I meet at least once every 2 weeks because she wants to make sure that I am on track to achieve the goal that I want to achieve.
Awesome. We're a little less than 10 minutes from wrapping up, so we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. Kate, did you want to come
Oh,
up?
I'll keep it short. I'm sorry. I'll keep it shorter.
No, these are these are fantastic responses. There's just a lot of questions, so. Kate, did you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, right. Hi. So I was checking a site about possible careers, and of the 1,300 positions shown, I I only saw one that was based in the US and it required about 5 years of experience in weekly travel. That might be a low point, but I can't tell. Does Goldman Sachs hire from the US often? If so, do they often hire for entry-level jobs?
Yes, we do. When it comes to full-time roles, it is a matter of like where do we have the headcount and where are we looking for. So if there's not a role that you're looking for at the moment in the US, it means that we don't necessarily have open headcount for it. But it doesn't mean that it won't show up in the down the road. It's just at the moment we are at full capacity for that team. But we do look for entry level positions.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you very much. I'll just check another time.
Yeah, of course.
Another question that came in, uh, this individual is big on teamwork. How does Goldman incorporate everyone working as a team during day-to-day operations, even dealing with everyday changes and challenges that may occur?
How do we encourage working as a team? That's a great question. Again, it depends on the team that you're in. But if I take it like from a very high level view, my team is not a standalone team. So I work constantly with clients, with the executive office, with legal, with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So in that case, it's building those connections. It's building those connections because everything will stem from another another person. Like in my case, if I want to get marketing done, like one, I need to work with my team to make sure like, hey, what are we really trying to put out there? What is the opportunity? What do you guys think? You know, like sometimes like they'll have a better way of wording it and everything like that. And then from that point, I'm like, okay, let me take it to the executive office. Hey, we want to do this. How would you recommend to market it, or like how would you format it? And something that I love is that we have a culture, a catch up culture. So everybody usually is like on Zooms to help each other out to format it at the same time. We don't want you to drag out what you need to get done. If you need it to get done today, like we'll hop on a Zoom and we'll walk you through it. It's not just about doing it for you, it's about showing you how to do it so you have a better understanding going forward. But yeah, that's kind of my one take of it.
What are some things specifically on yourself, Nat? You mentioned that you came from being a teacher and then applied for this role. What are some things that maybe you did to stand out on your resume, or what are some things that maybe you leveraged from that previous work experience to land a role with Goldman?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the teaching component to land a role in Goldman for operations, I just this is not a brag. I just knew how to market myself and I did my research on what does the role that I want require, what skills are they looking for, and what responsibilities do they for on a day to day. And then I just took a step back from what I did, and I'm like, okay, if I take away the component that it's in the finance industry, and I take it to the core of the skill set of the responsibility, like what it consists of, which one or what translated into it. Like I said, in my case, it was I leveraged the fact that I had to be good at communication because when you're dealing with so many little ones that are awesome and have all sorts of different questions, you need to know how to communicate it. You need to know how to be compelling in a classroom. You also have to know how to talk to teachers, talk to parents, because I know parents are also sometimes really cool and easy, and sometimes they're a little more challenging. So you need to know how to like navigate those, and how you word things is very crucial in that sense. And then like I said, like there was a lot of lesson planning and adaptability real time. So it sounds so simple, and I'm gonna make it sound so simple, but if I didn't get a lesson through to the kids in this one day, then I had to change my lesson to like roll it over and just kind of tailor it to make sure that I address that need, that gap of knowledge. So in my case, in operations, like that's a lot of what you do. Like you have to be adaptable. You have to you have this set plan of how to approach things, but if something were to change, you need to know how to be creative to make sure that those needs, that risk, that exposure is still being addressed.
Awesome. Really quick one. Do you all use applicant tracking systems when you apply for open roles? Does Goldman use?
So we have candidate management systems. With the applicant tracking systems, they work more like they kind of do the screening for us. In our case, like we are very hands-on and very personal, so we do it ourselves. We still have platforms to try, like kind of keep it and kind of track the progress on their applications and all that. But at the end of the day, it's us really. So yeah.
Awesome. And then just sake of time, I'm going to ask one more question and then we'll wrap up. Are there any special programs for individuals that might be career changers?
That might be career change. Could you elaborate?
So maybe somebody going from accounting into computer science or vice versa. Is there anything specific that Goldman might offer individuals? Maybe even if it's internal, they're looking to go from one position to another.
Yeah, I mean, programs per se, I think the most relevant one would be skill set recruiting, where you apply to a certain skill set and you can be considered for different roles. But if I take more of the internal mobility component of it, I think I'm a really good example of being from operations to then being a recruiter. You know, like it's just a matter of like, do you have the core skills for the new role that you want, or even like having connections. Networking goes a long way, like a long way. So in my case, like I had a lot of connections with the people that go through headcount, and I had a lot of connections with a lot of people in HR. And so not only like did they hear about me, but they also got letters of recommendation like, hey, she's a great employee. Like she learns really fast. Like, I know she hasn't really had experience in that, but she's definitely somebody that you want to have on your team. So I think like that helps. It's not necessarily a program, but if you are interested in going in a different direction and you have built those relationships, those are what will help you kind of align to what you want more.
Fantastic. Just a reminder to everybody, the session was recorded. The recording will be sent out later on today. There were a lot of questions that were asked, and Nat did a fantastic job going through each one. That might be the longest Q&A I've ever been a part of here at WGU, so fantastic job going through each one of those. So if you want to go back and reference anything that was answered, please feel free to do so. Also attached to that will be the questionnaire. So keep an eye out for that, fill it out. It should take you no more than 2 minutes. We greatly appreciate your feedback. A reminder that this is one session that we're hosting during Quest. I would encourage you to attend some of the other ones that we have coming up over the next couple of weeks. Definitely check those out on our page. And then finally, just a big thank you to Nat. I know when we were looking for potential employers to come in, we were really trying to target individuals that had previously or alumni, WGU graduates. So big thank you to you, Nat, for jumping in, presenting, answering all these questions. That was fantastic.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being with WGU students. Not yet. Just a fact. Just a fact. This session, RJ.
Yeah, and we I'm going to have to try to leverage bring you back here in the near future. So we'll keep Nat on the loop here. But thank you everyone for jumping in. We greatly appreciate it, and have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Take care, everyone.